And as 5 o'clock hits, our stall horse just dies. Oh well. Anyway, what's up guys? It's Daz here. But you don't really care as we have fully annotated the Hebra region with treasures and Koroks. So, I'm going to go and get all of those treasures and Koroks, split them in 2 videos, and just go on our merry way. We're going to go from the southernmost point to the northernmost point. Also, I do believe some treasures on the northern part are missing on the annotation because we have over 100 pins. I will clear those out as we go through them in the future, but otherwise, let's begin with the very first Korok down the southernmost point. The first Korok can be found at the very peak of the windmill, just a tiny bit above the shrine in the bottom. The next one is over to the east along the cliff edge. That's the word I'm looking for. The next Korok we are looking for is not actually on the cliff edge, it is just south of the main path, right here. It is another flower trail that will lead us to the cliff edge. And this guy is behind a bombable rock and underneath the rock behind it. Next up, we're gonna go to the Tabantha village ruins. Yeah, I think that's the next southernmost one. So the Korok here is simply just a little bit southwest of the central part of the ruins, if you can really call it that. It's another rock and well puzzle. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but that's all you have to do. Put the rock in the well. Ball and chain, that's what I called them. Next one is to the west by the Tama Pond. Here we are at Tama Pond. It is simply a lily pad circle. Next up we're going to the next body of water on a tiny little island. And for this, all you need to do is climb and examine the very top of the tree on this tiny little island. The next Korok is far off to the east in this little ridge here on the edge. Now this guy, although kind of throwing me through a bit of a loop, is way down on this ridge, underneath a little rock. You'd have thought this would be out of bounds, but it's just not quite. Next Korok is going to be just by the Lanu Shrine, just a little bit northeast of the Hebra Plunge. So after dying a couple times to the icy cold water, I just realised the Korok is underneath a rock behind the shrine. It's a one-off Korok that doesn't seem to have this trait very often, and well, it really threw me through a loop now, didn't it? So the next Korok is going to be northeast of there, up on a peak. So at the peak of this peak is your Korok underneath a rock. The next Korok can be found again on the eastern edge cliff, just northeast a little bit of the Hebra Tower. This little guy can also be found way down below on the cliff, underneath a rock. Next one we're going for is just a little bit north, up on the cliff top. The Korok is simply an archery test if we don't have star monsters right in the way. And it just has a balloon way off in the distance. You can shoot very easily. And there's another one down the cliff. Now that we've made it this far north, we're actually opened the entire region and we can go way off to the west. Before it was the Tabantha region in this area. So to the very bottom west corner of the Hebra region is our next Korok. The Korok is once again a archery test on the very corner of the region. I'd recommend bomb arrows because they get real close in spots of triangles. The next Korok is going to be at the very peak just below the Korvash peak. That's the one we're going for next. Man, the Koroks really like their archery at this place. At the very peak is another archery test. And a nice view over everything. The next Korok we're going to is to the east on the Hebra Head Spring. So just on the western edge of this mountain, you will find underneath a rock your Korok. Next one is still on the Hebra Head Spring, but we're going to the northern part of the Hebra Falls. And this guy is a balloon hidden at the very top of the falls. Next one we're going for is down the falls a bit further, in the center of the Hebra headstring. This guy is again another balloon along the falls underneath the sort of almost archway that's not really there. And the next Korok is even further down the falls, right by the actual bridge. And this next Korok isn't actually a balloon, it's a flower trial which has you climb along the southern edge of the entire bridge. Nice.
Daruk's protection is now ready to roll.
The next Korok is to the northeast, just below the Skull Cave, on the eastern part of the Hebra Headspring. The Korok is way hidden in the edge ridge, right down underneath a rock. Right, the next Korok we're going for is on the eastern side of the Kopeki Drifts, have I called, or Kopeki? Excuse me. So this Korok is simply a snowboard golfing course on the western edge of the mountain on the eastern part of the Kopeki Drifts. Up next, we're going to go to the Tabasco Tundra on the western part of where it says the southern Tabasco snowfield. So this Korok is a new type of Korok, kind of. You need to destroy the little nut, but instead of it being inside a tree, it's inside the log. So I guess it's still a tree, but still, that's what you need to do. The next Korok is in another bunch of trees in the south Tabasco snowfield, the bigger batch, directly south of the stables. The next Korok is underneath a batch of leaves, use the bombs, and then pick up the rock underneath that. The next Korok is again on the far eastern part, down the edge of the region. And this Korok simply wants us to play golf, again with a couple of boulders. Easy. Next up, I want to do the last two Koroks in the South Tabasco snowfield because I want to do it in that way. Do excuse me, that's what we're doing next. The first Korok is way off in the actual snowfield. What you want to do is go where we are on the map and go and find this little sort of subtle crop field of snow. There is a Korok invisibly running around there. Next up, we're going to the one on the east, just down the edge again. And this guy is behind a bombable rock, underneath a rock in there. My marker was a little off, but that doesn't matter. Right, next we're going to go way off to the west again, and then do another line to the east. Okay, so this guy is underneath a rock at the very peak of this point here. Check on the minimap if you're a little confused. But yeah. Next up, we're going to go... let's go to the next peak. I think we'll do quite a wide shot of going west to east. So next we're going to the very next peak, just directly north. Once again, at the top of this peak is another rock. Okay, this Korok put me through quite a ride. On all of the guides I follow, none of them ever seem to do flower trials very well. It's a flower trial puzzle. It starts way off to the north, and you have to make your way over to where the marker is, but the official guide has it only showing the Koroks as a massive poster, and because it's showing the entire map, the dots where all the Koroks are super tiny, so you can't really follow them very accurately, and even then they sort of do it best in that they actually show a line from the beginning to the end of the flower trial. Online ones, like the interactive map by the official big Zelda website, just doesn't do that at all. It just tells you where it will end and says that's where the Korok is. You have to click on it and say, oh look, it's a flower trial, and then it will give you some vague description of where it actually is. Sometimes they're pretty descriptive, a lot of times they're just terrible. God. Ugh. I make guides because I want to do the games 100%, and I assume other people would just like to see it, in case they're not going to look for it themselves. But goddamn, sometimes it feels like I'm the only one doing it right, because hey, look, here's how it actually starts. Here's a video form to show you exactly where it is. I go through the trials so that you don't have to. Ow, that hurt way more than it should have. I should not do that anymore. Even then, my marker was off anyway. Typical. Right, anyway, the next one we're going to is just southeast a little more. You can see where it is on the map, that it's a rock formation. It's a swirly-whirly, and the missing piece is to the southwest. Again, just follow the gap, and that will lead you pretty much where the rock is. Finish the swirl, and there's your Korok. Now we're done with this guy, we're gonna go south. We're gonna go southeast even more next, in between where we are now and the shrine. This guy is right on top of where the shrine is, above the roof pretty much, at the bottom of the cliff, if that helps at all. Behind a bubble rock, underneath another rock, is the Korok. Next up, I think we're done with this whole western portion, so now we're going just northeast of the flight range. Or just north? No, just northeast. Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me? This time with less rhino, please. The Korok is underneath a rock at the very peak of this peak. Though the rhino did pique my interest in this peak. Because it only gave me a sneak peek. Okay, anyway, the next Korok seed is northeast of there, just at below the Talonto Peak. For this Korok, it's once again another log nut Korok, if that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, up next we're going to go... Next we'll go southeast down the ridge of the Talonto Peak. The Korok can be found behind an icy block just a little bit lower on the ridge than where my marker is. Pay more attention to where I am rather than anything else. And it's just examinable behind the ice block. Next up, I think we'll go a little bit north on the eastern part of the Talonto Peak. The next Korok is actually a little bit east of where my marker is, in this little tunnel, I guess you could say. It's an archway that goes over it, and there is the balloon towards the roof of the cave, cliff, tunnel. That's where it is. Next up, we're going to go east more on the, I don't know where that is, south directly of the Hebra Peak, but a little bit northeast of the Hebra Falls. The Hebra Falls. My life is a fallacy. A fallacy. What am I doing? Never mind. Right, this Korok is way off in this little ridge here behind this little ice block. I have the wrong type of arrows. That was pathetic. Right, next up we're going to go from the very far west and do another line. So next up, we're going on this peak here, directly west of the Stanida, whatever it was. Now this guy isn't under a rock, he's just running around at the peak. This took me a long time to find because I couldn't hear him, and it's really white, and my color blindness kind of ruined everything, so that was quite a fun little challenge for myself. Anyway, the next Korok we're going for, I believe, is the next northernmost peak, actually on the Hebra West Summit. The next peak takes us to the predictability land again. It's underneath a rock, but it's easy to remember. Right, next we're going to the east in this clump of trees here. Once again, this is a frustrating flower trial. You don't want to be up on the trees, you want to be a little bit northeast of it, where we are on the map. It is a flower trial that takes us to that part in the trees. Actually, not even that. That marker's wrong too. I guess I did it in a hurry. Oh, I hate the flower trial ones. They're so hard to keep track of. Right, now that that one's over, we're going to go north. As you can probably see from the map earlier, it is a triangle formation of rocks. Right, now we're done with that. The next one we're going to go to is east of here, just east of the Byron's snow shell, did that say, or something like that? You know where I'm talking about. Now that we're here, all we need to do is climb the leafless tree to the top. Next up, we're going way south, just west of the Byron Snow Shelf in the little ridge there. Yeah. And right in this ridge is not only a bunch of gems, but a Korok underneath a rock. Next one, we're going to the top of the Byron Snow Shelf. And this guy can be found on this little rock here, underneath this little rock here. Big rock, little rock, welcome to our garden. Next up, we're going to the north, just on the Hebra Tundra, along the western-ish part of it, almost directly north of the shrine. If that helps at all, you can see it in the map. I just thought I'd give some more descriptions. This treasure can be found very simply by the shore, underneath some snow. Next up, we're going to go to the Hebra Mountains part. It's quite a skip, actually. Just a little bit west of the Cold Snap Hollows. But this Korok is an archery one. It's a little frantic in that there are 2 balloons, I believe, or 3. And they keep disappearing. There are 2 balloons, I think, and they just keep going into 3 different locations. Wow, that really actually succeeded in catching me. There are 3 balloons, just to confirm. 3 balloons and 4 spots, I think. Right, now that one's done, how fun. We're going to the main part of the Hebra ruins, just a little bit west of the Cold Snap Hollows. Up at the peak is another archery balloon test. Next up, we're going pretty much in the Cold Snap Hollows in the southwest portion of it. And this guy can be found within an ice block. Next up, we're going just a tiny bit east, still in the Cold Snap Hollows, right in the center of this platform. Excuse the yawn. We're going to the Selmy spot? Yes, Selmy spot. Okay, I thought it said Selmic and it threw me off. But yes, we're going to the Selmic spot just northeast of the Cold Snap Hollows. Is there different music at Selmy spot that I never heard? Oh man, I'm recording this post-commentary like I usually do with these kind of compilation montages. I didn't know there was unique song for Selmy spot. I never actually heard it. That's cool. It's a shame that I'm recording this in post, so it's not really working. But anyway, Koroks on the roof, as you just saw. Next one we're going to is west of the Hebra Mountains. Hard break over. Next Korok we're going for is underneath a rock, hidden in these little rock formations here, just a little bit west and a tiny bit south of the shrine, right inside the Hebra Peak. A little bit off from my marker, but you can see where it is here. Next up, we're going a little bit north of the Hebra Peak. That's not right either, actually. It's just because everything was so close together, I couldn't mark it directly on. We're going to the top of the Hebra Peak. Seems kind of obvious, but what do you know? This guy is unsurprisingly underneath a rock. Next up, we're going southeast of the Hebra Peak to the rock formation we can see on the map. As we saw on the map, it is a rock formation. It is a circle with a couple gaps in it. The rocks are in the direction of the gaps. Nice and simple. Now that one's over, we're going to the Paquita Stone Grove in the northwest portion of it. The Korok is in an ice block, pretty much where the marker is, a little bit south actually. It's in the little ridge bit just below it. This next Korok is on the eastern part of the Stone Grove behind an ice cube. Wow, that was the smallest amount of ice I could have imagined that being. And the final Korok in this area is underneath all these almost mushroom snowy cliffs, is an archery test. But it's not a balloon test, it's actually a couple of nuts being thrown off nearby. Now that that's done, I'm still yawning. Oh, we're gonna go east to the northern Tabasco snowfield and get this last Korok on this mountain here. The first Korok we're going to do on this mountain is actually golf, again. The Korok we're going for on this mountain is a lovely game of golf. Decided to push 2 boulders because, in case one failed, I guess. Alright, and that's that one done. So at this point, let's go way back west and do another loop. We're going to the northwest corner, right by the Icefall Foothill, I think it was called? Or Footloose, but I feel that was probably wrong. Right, the Korok in this corner is right outside the shrine. It is another cube puzzle. It goes here. Right, next up we'll go further east because that's how the system works. I'm pretty sure you've picked this up by now. We want to go to just northwest of the Hebra Great Skeleton. The Korok is just on the northern ridge, pretty much just behind a block of ice. Pretty simple. And a little bit more north than west of the shrine. Next Korok we're going for is just at the peak of the Hebra North Summit. It's another archery test and quite a frantic single balloon. Just memorize its pattern and good luck. Unfortunately, bombs don't work. Gotta admit though, I do like the view. Anyway, next up we're gonna go a little northeast by the Hebra Great Skeleton. It's on the inside of the mountain, by the way, as a little disclaimer. So the next Korok is actually inside of the Hebra peak, whatever this mountain is. From the shrine, what you need to do is you need to climb up the Great Skeleton, which is pretty cool. Something I, for some reason, never thought of doing. It's a flower path at the top of the skeleton. Just follow that. Nice and cool. Next up, we're going northeast on the northeast of the Great Skeleton, northwest of the Hebra North Crest. It's another rock formation, as you can see on the map. Here's the rock formation. There's a rock seemingly misplaced in the center. Put it in the gap. Nice and simply done. Next up, we're going to go quite a bit south, actually, because it's the next eastern point. We're going here. It's not really marked by any named locations. Sorry. Once again, this Korok is a log nut Korok, and I'm struggling to actually hit it.
Fury is ready.
Next up, we're going to go northeast of here by the body of water. Welcome to Gotham's secret hot spring. Place only actually shows up on the map when you actually come here, as in the name of it. There's a handful of hot springs in this area, and they will actually replenish your health, which is nice, at least when you crouch and have enough of your body in it. Anyway, what we want to do is we want to get to the Korok, which is to the northmost-ish part of the area. Blow up the leaves and pick up the rock. Next up, we're going east. Climb to the top of the leafless tree, and your Korok is examinable at the top there. Next up, we're going east further to the north ridge of the whole area. Just a little bit north and a tiny bit east of Selmy's spot. Right, now this Korok is an interesting looking rock formation. You want to basically complete the diamond. Yeah, diamond of rocks. The missing piece can be found over to the west, a little bit up on the rocks. And it goes here. Next, we're on the same level, but we're going southeast. It's actually one level higher. My mark was a little bit off. You need to climb this white tree on this cliff here. Next up, we're going to one of the peaks just a little bit north of the Paquita Stone Grove. The Korok can be found between these two peaks, if you can really call them peaks. It is behind another ice block. Next, we're going northeast of the entire part north of the Stone Grove, just by the ridge. At the peak of this little mountain of the northernmost part of the Hebra region is another archery test. I would recommend bomb arrows because they seem to get real close to each other. And with the missed bomb arrows didn't annoy the Lionel. Anyway, next we're going right into Lionel territory. It's the eastern part of the northern Tabantha snowfield, right by a clump of trees. You can see the Lionel in the distance, but it wasn't a trouble for me. This guy is another log nut Korok. Right, up next we're going northeast. Yes, we are, onto this little mountain here. Once again, you're now in the path of another Lionel, but that's fine. It wasn't a trouble for me either. It's a rock formation. Complete the 3 circles using the missing rock. Next up, we're going to the northeast portion of the mountain east of the North Tabantha snowfield. I realize it has a name, but I didn't zoom in to see what it was, so excuse me, but you know what I'm talking about. The Korok is very nicely found as a cube puzzle. It goes here. And there's only one more Korok to get. It is directly south of the North Lamai Labyrinth by some sort of tree on the map. And the final Korok, what do you know, is just actually at the very top of this little tree. Except it's a balloon, so it's not quite exactly. Anyway, that is it. Directly south of the North Lamai Labyrinth, that is our final Korok. And that is the Hebra region complete. So on that note, I'm going to end it off here. Next time, we're not going to go to our fourth and final Divine Beast, but we have completed the entire top left corner of the region. Now, because we have the Rito armor, I want to complete one last region, because there's also a whole bunch of optional areas to defeat first. Now, we're only going to do one other optional area. Technically, the whole Hebra region was an optional area, so that is why. But what I want to do is I want to take on the East Necluda region, or the Hateno Tower region, because we can now access Mount Lanayru. It is the same level of coldness as the entire Hebra region, and now that we have armor that really warms us up, that's what I want to do next. It won't take us too long, or it won't take you too long. It's only a couple more days of videos. I need to probably pull another all-nighter to get the gameplay for all of the treasures and the Koroks and the shrines and the side quests, but that's a thing for my issue, not yours. I really like the view of this place. I don't know, I just like the snow and just the expansiveness and the space. Anyway, my name's been Daz, you don't really care, and I will see you over in Hateno.